Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Cindy and today I decided to make a short video to share with you guys what kind of jobs I did, what kind of jobs I worked as an international student back when I was studying in Melbourne, Australia. So if you haven't watched any of my videos before, I moved from China to Australia when I was 23 years old to pursue the study of my master's degree. And then I decided to do Master of Social Work and then apply the skilled migration permanent residency. Then I've been living and working here for almost 10 years now. So today I thought it would be interesting for people who haven't been to Australia, who's thinking about coming to Australia to study or eventually to find a job and then apply for their permanent residency. This might be just some useful information for you guys. Before I came to Australia, I did not have access to YouTube. Well, I did know there's YouTube, but I never thought about put on VPN and then get onto YouTube and see if there's anybody sharing the experience as international students. I was so innocent. I was also full of confidence, and I think I'll be able to sort everything once I land in Melbourne, which I basically did. Anyway, okay, let's get to it. Back in February 2017, I came to Melbourne to complete my master's degree in Melbourne Uni. And very quickly, I realized the cost of living is actually a lot higher comparing with China. Let's say the rent here is quite expensive as international students, unlike in China, where I spent my 4 bachelor years staying on the campus, staying in a dormitory with my 3 other dormitory friends, which are also my classmates, probably only cost couple $100 a whole year. But in Australia, it's different. As international students, you can apply to stay on the campus for dormitories, but that is quite expensive. That is actually more expensive than let's say co-renting apartment in the city. So that's what I did. I rented a small apartment with one of the friends I made at that time who's also a uni student, and very quickly, I realized I probably need to start making some money to ease the financial burden I placed on my parents because it's quite expensive. The tuition fees are expensive. The cost of living was expensive. And then I also learned the minimum wage in Australia at that time was about $18 per hour, which is very, very appealing to me because I worked some casual jobs in China. When I was in the uni, I co-owned a very small snack shop with a business partner at the time. I worked in an outfit shop that people can come in and then rent a beautiful gown and beautiful clothes for like an event they're going to. So I did some work, but the pay was really low as a uni student in China. So after I learned working in Australia, you can get paid $18, more than $18 per hour. It was extremely appealing to me. So based on my experience of sales and working in shops, I decided to print out a little resume and I walked around the city. I gave all my resumes to the shops, to Maya, to David Jones, to all the brands that might be looking. I don't know. However, 3 weeks passed. I didn't hear anything back from any of them. And I was like, oh, no, maybe because English is not my first language. Maybe because I don't have sales experience in Australia. Also, maybe I'm on student visa. However, being on student visa shouldn't give you too much of a disadvantage because being on student visa, you are allowed to work 20 hours per week. And that is not during school holiday time. So it was perfectly fine. I was just looking to work 3-4 shifts in the shop, but obviously that my experience didn't match the person or staff they are looking. At the time, very sadly, I couldn't find any job. In the first few weeks, I was feeling quite frustrated. Then one day I met a friend through a friend who actually asked me, would you like to come and work in a Chinese restaurant? And I was like, oh, I never worked in a restaurant before, and I don't know if I can handle the work. I don't want to break anything in the kitchen. And I said to him, oh, I don't know. Do they pay legal wage? Because it is actually a thing that Chinese restaurants in Melbourne or in Australia in general, they do take advantage of people that is on a temporary visa, only pay them less than the legal wage, so they can cut budget, they can save money here and there. That was my assumption of that restaurant. I wasn't willing to, let's say, work for a Chinese restaurant, extremely hard work, only get paid $8 an hour, while the legal minimum wage is 18, right? And he was like, oh, no. This restaurant, they actually pay the minimum wage. I was so surprised. I was also very excited. I'm like, okay, sign me up. I am happy to go work in the restaurant. Any restaurants, as long as they pay me legal wage. And he was like, oh no, yes, I can recommend you. However, you do need to go for a trial. I was like, oh my God, this is quite intense. So I went to the trial, and the first hour I was being taught how to do all the basic jobs. And then the first hour you're not being paid, which is actually legal. And then after the first hour, every hour I worked there, I am entitled to this minimum legal pay. So I worked there for a total of 2 hours. By the end of my shift, they paid me for my second hour in cash, and they also asked me to leave my details, and they were interested in hiring me. I was really excited. I gave them my details. I said, I actually live in the city. It's very close for me to come to work in a restaurant. And if someone all of a sudden sick, or if someone couldn't make the shift today, you can always call me because I live so close. So long story short, that's how I find my first job. I worked in that Chinese restaurant for about a year. Every week I worked there. I would also look for other jobs because I do not want to be only having a job of working in the Chinese restaurant, which actually does not support my future career or anything that I wanted to do. Unless I wanted to become a Chinese restaurant owner, I guess, which was not one of my goals at the time. So that's how I got my first job. And very quickly, I made more friends. And over the months I stayed in Melbourne, I made more friends who all work in different jobs. And something I learned is if you would like to work in a shopping center like Myer or David Jones, you would like to work for brands that sells perfumes or sells makeup, the best way to get into them is actually by Christmas hiring, because during Christmas time, they would need to hire a lot of more casual staff, and that is the best way for you to set your foot in the door. And if you performed really well, they might keep you on as a regular staff. So keep that in mind if you would like to find a part-time job or casual job as a staff working in the shopping center or working retail sales in the shops. Back to where I was saying, I started to make more friends. Then I quickly learned there is a Vodafone shop. So if you guys are not in Australia, you probably don't know Vodafone. Telstra, Optus, these are a few of the mobile companies that sell you SIM cards. You can buy phone, you can buy tablets, you can buy iPad, you can buy all sorts of different things. Then I met this guy from another mutual friend who introduced me, and he said, well, if you are getting sick of working in the Chinese restaurant, maybe you can come to work for us in the Vodafone shop. So the Vodafone shop wasn't in the city, and that was my second year of living in Melbourne. I was no longer living in the city. I moved to South Sierra area, and that shop wasn't too far away from the South Sierra area. So I went to the interview and I did really well. The shop owner is also Chinese, so we were able to converse in Chinese, in Mandarin, and lots of the clientele are Chinese international students or Chinese people that are living and working in Melbourne. So being able to speak English and Mandarin is actually one of the requirements to work in the shop. I probably insert a picture here of me working in the Vodafone shop. Comparing with the job in Chinese restaurant, I was thinking, oh my God, I can work in the shop. This is dream comes true. This is really good. I can learn to build some sales experience and some retail experience, which I really enjoyed initially. Lots of things happened. COVID happened, and 2 years later, the Chinese owner of the shop actually sold the shop to a different owner, which wasn't a big issue at the time. But after 2 years working in this Vodafone shop, I also graduated from Master of Social Work, and I find my first social work job, which was 3 days, sadly. So I was doing 3 days in my social worker job, 3 days in the Vodafone shop, and the Sunday I was using that to do my IELTS, the English exam. Was a pretty dark time of my life, and again, I didn't know how I put that off, but I did. Anyway, so these two are the main jobs that I worked as an international student. I never worked over 20 hours during the school terms, which is what's legally required. And during COVID, I believe there's some policy shifts around how many hours you can work as a student. If you are healthcare related students, you can work more hours. So if you are an international student that currently studying in Australia, make sure to check the policies and your visa's requirements, how many hours you can actually work, and you do not want to go against what is the legislation here. So back to my job journey. As an international student, I was extremely lucky to be able to have these jobs. Working in a Chinese restaurant actually provided me a lot more than the minimum wage. It provided me with a lot of food. If I work a late shift, means I work until the restaurant close. I get to do some takeaway, and then all the food that's left over from the kitchen, I can actually take them back to the apartment, and I share them with my housemate. We really enjoy the free food. We can eat that for dinner that day, and then for lunch the following day. It was amazing for budget cutting if you are on a tight budget like I was as an international student, or working in a restaurant might actually be a pretty good choice. So now I've shared how did I find the two main jobs I worked as international students. There are a few tips I would give you if you are also looking to work in Australia as international students. Depends on where you work. If you are in a, let's say, more regional town, has lots of farmings, you might be able to work in some farms on the weekend or during the busy season. If you study in a big city like Melbourne, like Sydney, if you have a car, you can always do Uber Eats, you can always do food delivery. You can also sign up with different companies to help them deliver the parcels. That's one of the ways to make extra money. And you can always, like what I did, print out your resume to go to shops. Or the best way to work in retail is actually start in the Christmas busy time, and then you might become a regular staff. Another tips I will give is please always reach out to your local friends. The friends you made here, they might have some resources you don't know. If they already have a job, they might be able to introduce you to their jobs. You might find out that you can't find a job on your own because you are new. You are new to this country, you're new to this city, but you have friends who's already got a job. Then what is a better way to ask your friends for help? That's what I did, and that actually worked out for me. Again, this tips only applies for casual jobs. When you are international students, when you start your professional career, there's much more you can do. And I have actually made a separate video about how to look for your first professional job post-graduation in Australia as an international student. So feel free to check that one out as well. All in all, it was not an easy experience looking for a job, looking to be hired, looking to make that sweet minimum wage in Australia. I hope the video I make today can be of help for you, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.